The following program contains the opinions of the host, guests, and call-in participants. These do not necessarily represent the views of this show's distributors or sponsors. This program may contain obscene, profane, or otherwise objectionable language. Viewer discretion is advised. I should try turning the camera on, shouldn't I? You know, this is, what is it, 243rd show, I think? Will I ever master this? The answer is no. I need a director here pretty bad. Now, I want to tell you, considering the fact that I do this all myself, we do a pretty good job, but no, still I need a director. Too many buttons, not enough time. Hi, how you doing? Come to your cordless, everybody. Greetings from Minneapolis. I'm Jim Peters, and welcome to another edition of Jim Peters at Night. This is episode number 243, as I said. Those of you keeping score on your cards at home, I don't know why you would be, but you should. You should. So I hope things are well with you. We got a great show for you tonight. Salvador Litvak is here, Jewish comedian and humorist, and he's the author of the book, Let My People Laugh, Greatest Jewish Jokes of All Time. I bet we'll hear a few. What do you think about that? That sounds good. That sounds entertaining, doesn't it? And then second half of the show, our friend JONATHAN Lockwood's coming on, former retired U.S. Army colonel, military historian, and we're going to talk about the latest developments in the Israel-Iran conflict. This is an entirely live show, no pre-recorded parts tonight, and you can call up at any time. We got the ticker on the bottom of the screen, 325-CALL-JIM, 325-225-5546. If you think you have jokes that are better than Sal's, call up and tell them. And same thing with Lockwood. If you think you know what's going on better than Lockwood does, you know, Lockwood's a good guy, but Lockwood's an expert. So that's why we have on the show. So if you have an opinion better than his, God knows, let us know. So yeah, so that's what's going on here. So now tomorrow night, you know, as I always say, we got it going on. You know, okay, Boomer. Tomorrow night, Larry Newman, our old friend, Bigfoot investigator and bail bondsman extraordinaire, is joining us, and we'll hear a lot. That's you know this is basically once a month, two old guys, for lack of a better term, shooting the shit. That's what we're doing. You know, I mean, Larry comes on here all the time. You know that. Thursday, I've been promoting this for 2 weeks because I'm kind of excited about this. We got L.A. Marzulli coming on. He is a paranormal researcher, and he's been doing it for like 30-40 years. I think the guy I even bothered to count. I think he has about 200 books 24 books in print, and he's made about a half a dozen film documentaries, all sorts of stuff, UFOs, ghosts, apparitions, paranormal stuff, you name it. He's a master of paranormal stuff, and he's coming on Thursday, and you know how I like that. You know that. So next Monday, it's the return of our all-star monthly panel, the month in review panel. I don't know why I killed this. That's actually a lie. I actually do, but I changed my mind. So because we had too many people, actually, there aren't a lot of people who write in on the show and say, well, why did you stop doing that? And that's one of the very few things that happened. People writing in, I miss those guys. Why did you stop doing that? Well, okay. And I think the last time we did it was like February or something like that. Well, it's coming back. We're doing it. And the guys on Monday are Tim Conaway, the aforementioned, and as aforementioned. What do I know? Do I know English? You do know that English is actually my second language. You do know that, right? Larry Newman, Tim Conaway, and Jennifer Oliver O'Connell, who does not really qualify as a man, but still, we need her to keep all the rest of the guys in line. Normally, Don Zorro is here, but Zorro has an engagement. He can't make it, so Jennifer's taking his place. That's on Monday. Tuesday, Carol Lieberman. She's a forensic psychologist, and that I love crap like that because I love like whodunits and stuff. I'm not really into movies much anymore. I gotta admit, other than comedies, and which is one of the reasons Sal's coming on, because I love comedy. But the one of the few things I really still like in movies is the whodunits. I, I've seen, I bet, every single Perry Mason episode from the 1960s. I think there's 531 of them. I think I've seen every one of them at least 3 times. So I love that stuff. She's a forensic psychologist and a professional courtroom witness. So we're going to talk to her. She also hosts a show on the Voice of America, and she hosts the Terrorist Therapist podcast. God knows we got to ask her about that. We're going to take Wednesday and Thursday next week before the 4th of July. We're taking that off. We had to take Wednesday off. And then I said, well, screw it. Let's just do Tuesday and Thursday too. So we're taking Wednesday and Thursday off. Then we're coming back on Monday, July 7th with Jeff Dornick. And he's the CEO of Pickaxe, which is a new like Twitter X competitor. And he's mostly coming on to talk. We're going to talk about AI. And there's some really, man, I'm going to save this for part 3 tonight, but I'll just mention this. The AI is starting to blackmail people. So we'll get into that later. But Salvador Litvak's waiting for us right now, and we're going to put him on. So here we go. Joining us from his home in Los Angeles, California, Salvador Litvak, author of Let My People Laugh. How you doing, Sal?
Great to be with you, Jim. It's an honor.
Thank you. It's an honor to have you here. I love comedy. I'm basically like a frustrated comedian, as you can probably tell. I'm not too good at it.
But I think you're doing a great job.
Well, there's a difference between being a comedian and a talk show host. And here's my first question for you. There's, your publicity stuff lists you as both a humorist and a comedian. Some people make a distinction of those two things. Do you? And if so, which one are you?
I don't know who said I'm a comedian. I'm not. I am a humorist. I am an author, and I'm a film director, director of Guns N' Moses, which I love when you said you love a whodunit. So Guns N' Moses is an action thriller structured as a mystery that opens in theaters across the country on July 18th, starring Mark Forstein.
I thought it already opened. It hasn't opened yet?
No, July 18th, starring Neil McDonough, Christopher Lloyd, Dermot Mulroney. People are going to love it. It's the story of a rabbi who becomes an unlikely gunfighter after his community is violently attacked. And like I said, opens in theaters across America, July 18th. But as for comedy, I would say I was not born funny. I married into it. Thank God my wife is hilarious.
Oh man, you just opened a whole door there, man. You should have said that.
And I do have the book. Yes, Let My People Laugh, greatest Jewish jokes of all time. I feel like I'm an inheritor of a great comedy tradition. And I've tried to bring down the best jokes. I've adapted all of them to the best form of them for the modern ear and the modern age. And thank God, a lot of these jokes, I tell them on my channel, Accidental Talmudist, on Instagram and Facebook. We have 1.3 million followers. So many of these jokes have gone viral. And most recently, I told the joke called, it's number 87 in the book, The Supreme Leader, and it's about Israel and Iran. So you let me know when you want me to tell that joke.
Now,
says Jim. I love it.
This isn't the thing where you just say 87 and people laugh, right?
That's in the introduction of the book. Yes, exactly right. And the reason that the jokes are numbered, we'll tell that joke in a moment.
All right.
But the reason the jokes are numbered is because, you need jokes. You need a joke for a wedding toast, for a business lunch, for a fundraising speech, for a golf outing. So I have lists in the book, the best jokes for those situations. And there's lots of jokes that work in multiple situations. So the numbers tell you, which joke is good for that. So this is joke number 87, the Supreme Leader. So the Supreme Leader of Iran gets a phone call. Mr. Supreme Leader, this is Ori from a little village in Israel, and I'm calling to let you know that our morning minyan, our morning prayer group, is officially declaring war on you. Well, Ori, this is important news. Tell me, how big is your army? Currently, there's myself, my cousin Ron, our next door neighbor Eitan, and the entire 6 a.m. minion, and that makes 18 of us. Well, I must tell you, Ori, that I have 1 million men in my army ready to move on my command. Huh. I'll call you back, Mr. Supreme Leader. So the next day, Ori calls back and he says, okay, Mr. Supreme Leader, the war is still on. We acquired some equipment. We've got 2 combine harvesters, a bulldozer, and Eitan's tractor from the farm. Ori, I have 16,000 tanks and 14,000 armored carriers. Oh, is that so? Well, I'll call you back. Next day. Shalom, Mr. Supreme Leader. The war is still on. Now we are airborne too. We modified Shimmy's ultralight with a couple of rifles in the cockpit, and the 8 a.m. minion is joining in too. Well, Ori, I have bombers and MiG-29 fighter jets, and my bases are surrounded by laser-guided missiles. And since we first spoke, my army has doubled in size to 2 million men. Okay, I'll call you back. Next day. Mr. Supreme Leader, I'm sorry to say the war is off. Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that, Ori. Why the change of heart? Well, we all had a chat, and there's no way that we can feed 2 million prisoners. And I do laugh at my own jokes, and I don't think you should eat food from a skinny chef, and you shouldn't take jokes from a guy who doesn't enjoy them.
I'm totally with you there. I'm laughing at myself all the time because mostly I'm a dork, but that was pretty damn good. So okay, so that leads me to the next question, which has nothing to do with humor at all, or I don't know if it's a question. I'm going to make a statement. It's pretty amazing how the Israelis and the Americans really decimated these people, isn't it? Because I mean, they it turns out they had nothing.
Paper tiger comes to mind.
That's right. Paper tiger. I know. It's really I'm pretty all that talk for all those years, and man, it's like it all disappeared in like an afternoon. Holy Christ! All right, so I just made a comment there, and you can comment.
I can pick up that train of thought.
Please do.
Yeah, I mean, what have these people? They are the #1 state sponsor of terror around the world.
Correct.
That's what they know how to do, is to attack innocent people. They've been funding Hamas, funding Hezbollah, funding terrorists around the world. Now they're claiming they have sleeper cells in America. I guess an open border for 4 years would allow some Iranian terrorists to come into America. So that's something to take seriously. But as for armies that fight armies, apparently not so much. And when Israel just, first they took care of business in Gaza, then they took care of business, Hezbollah in Lebanon. And then when they were ready to confront the leader who's been funding and arming these people for so long, man, did they get down to business and took out the heads of that snake all overnight, seemingly. Listen, I'm a person of faith. I'm an Orthodox Jew. I love God. I believe in God. And I believe that we are living in a time of revealed miracles. I mean, this is absolutely amazing what's been going on. And I have tremendous gratitude to President Trump, to the administration, to the U.S. Armed Forces, and to the leadership in Israel and the army, the IDF of Israel. I mean, these people are risking their lives constantly to keep us safe. And the world is much safer with Iran not in possession of a nuclear weapon.
The start of your joke just reminded me even about how they supposedly got all these 20 army generals in one spot to bomb them. And they basically, and I was actually thinking about this. So, all right, they supposedly called every one of them individually and said, we're having a meeting, you got to show up here. Now, what's been explained to me is that these people, they don't even risk going against orders because they could end up, thrown off a building. So they basically do whatever they're told, even the higher ups. But I was thinking they must have monitored these phone calls for quite some time just to be able to emulate and imitate the people on the other end.
Decades.
It's like,
decades.
And then you're thinking, well, this is so basic. I mean, I could do this. I used to call send when I was a kid, send pizzas to other places. It's like the same crap. It's the same crap, and it's still
Remember Operation Grim Beeper a few months ago?
Yeah,
How they took out
that was
Hezbollah.
actually brilliant. There's been some brilliant
Brilliant.
stuff going on here. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, I do have to ask. First of all, I agree with absolutely everything you said. I have to ask you though, what do you think about the nature of evil? I have conversations with a lot of philosophers on here or something. Or I do. No, I do. And the question always become: is evil, does intrinsic true evil truly exist, or is it just an enormous amount of human stupidity?
What a good question.
Because a lot of people, you know, I think a lot of evil is just people who completely miscalculate their own self-interest. In other words, they think that they want something they actually don't, but they don't know that. So, and then on the other hand, I mean, that's basically my opinion, that true evil exists, but the vast majority of what passes for evil is just human stupidity. That's where I'm coming from.
I mean, I think that there are a lot of people who are committing evil and they don't think they're committing evil.
Well, of course.
So
Yeah.
in that sense, they are, you know, they're vile, they're vicious, and they don't know, perhaps. But I think there's evil people at work in this world who know that what they're doing is evil. And what comes to mind there is anyone who's abusing children. I mean, they know. They know that they're getting off on something that gives them pleasure. And that is an absolute unmitigated evil. And you know, since there's a lot of subjects on the table in this conversation, I love that. Something that I've been saying for a long time. There's a woman in prison right now, Ghislaine Maxwell, for trafficking underage women to rich, powerful men.
Yeah.
She's in prison for that crime.
Right.
So obviously it's known who the rich, powerful men are. And why are they not in prison? What's going on? I mean, there are some really vile, evil people with tremendous power, and we should pray that they be brought down as quickly as possible.
Sal, do you think we'll ever find out who it is?
I hope so. I mean, yes, I do think so. I think that all evil comes out in the end. These people are addicted, you know, to their, I don't know, their persuasions. They can't help themselves. They keep going at it. I mean, look at this P. Diddy guy. I mean, the kind of behavior that's being discussed in that courtroom, it's repulsive, and he got away with it for a long time, and now he didn't, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that along with him, other people are going to come down, and they should. I mean, if they are, you know, to each his own taste, but your taste ends, your right to pursue your own taste ends when you're hurting other people, and that's what these people do.
This is the example I've always used for the hypothetical question. If you took the Holocaust out of World War II, let's say, I mean, for example, and also for all practical purposes, the Allies didn't find out that happened until after the war was done. I mean, they kind of did, but no one was listening. If you took the Holocaust out of World War II, in other words, if Hitler had not done that, if the Nazis had not done that at all, and it was just the war and the war ended, would the war have been evil? I mean, I think everyone agrees the Holocaust was evil. You can't argue with that.
You can't argue with that. And I'll tell you something, they would have had a much better chance of winning that war.
No
if they
shit.
weren't dedicating so much resources to killing Jews.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like, you know, if they just wanted to take over Europe, they could have done it in spades. I mean, really, if that was their only, you know, if they had concentrated on the real task at hand, they would have won. I mean, they would have. It's really hilarious. But no, they
certainly would have had a lot more power and resources at their disposal, but they were just obsessed with killing Jews. They're not the first. They're not the last. It was a conflagration of evil the world has never seen. I mean, it's very close to my heart. My grandmother survived the Holocaust. She carried my mother as an infant through a concentration camp. Oh. And my grandfather was murdered in a different camp. So the specter of the Holocaust is something that I grew up in my house. And there's a line actually in the movie. I mean, our movie is a modern neo-Western thriller about Jews under attack who fight back. But there is a scene in which this is discussed, and somebody says the Holocaust was a hoax. And he says, I don't want to hear about the greatest hoax of all time from a so-called victim of it. And the rabbi corrects him, and he says, yeah, we're not victims of the Holocaust. Those of us who survived think of ourselves as survivors, not victims, And this idea, that Jews have to scurry along with their noses down. Thank God we're living in an age where we can fight back, where we do have a Jewish homeland that's defined. And when people, talk about Israel and genocide and colonizer, the stupidity and the falsehood of that is so apparent to anyone who would just look at a map. That's all you have to do. Just look at a map. And when you see how tiny Israel is in this vast land that encompasses curvature of the earth, which is all these 22 Arab Muslim nations, and to say, yeah, there's no room for the Palestinians in this vast landmass of people who speak their language and practice their religion, and there's no room for tiny little Israel in the traditional homeland of the Jewish people that has been that for over 3,000 years, it's obviously a lie. The question is, who's propagating that lie? How do they benefit from it? How do they profit from it? And in general, who profits from keeping us angry at each other and terrified of each other? That's a great question we need to keep asking. Right.
And the other thing is, I was 30 years ago a good liberal boy, and I thought, if you want the two-state solution seems really, on the surface, really equitable and fair. And then you get older, and then you realize, well, okay, the Palestinians are in Gaza, and they had 14 years where no one bothered them. They were left
given a state.
They were left on their own, and they basically did nothing. There's no infrastructure. There's no development of their society.
Well, I wouldn't say they did nothing. Well, they built an armed fortress for the purpose of launching attacks at Israel. That's what they built.
The only thing they did is attempt to kill more Jews. That's it. They did
That's
nothing
their industry.
else. And then you look at Tel Aviv. In 75 years, one of the great cities in the world. Hell, in 50 years, one of the great cities of the world. From nothing. I don't have to tell you this. It's a dusty, stupid landscape. You don't, as real estate goes, this is terrible land. And they put this giant city up that ironically is one of the most coolest places on earth to be gay.
Exactly. All these people who are, chanting for the Palestinian leadership, Hamas, and globalize the Intifada, and gays for Gaza. Go visit, see how it goes. Because the only place in the Middle East that has gay rights is Israel.
For 2 years on this show, I've been saying gays for Gaza is the funniest thing I've heard in 20 years. It's like, what are you? You're nuts?
It's like chickens for KFC.
Yeah, that's right. So let me ask you, why do you think historically, going back millennia, why do you think the Jewish people have been, if not oppressed, at least tormented and ridiculed? And I have a theory here, but I want to know what your thoughts first.
This is one of the oldest questions. There's always been many answers to it. But what did the Jews do when we came into the world? First of all, we received the Torah at Mount Sinai, which includes the 10 Commandments, which is to say an objective moral code from our Creator that doesn't obligate only the Jews, it obligates all of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. My screen went blank. Okay, I'm glad we're good. It obligates all of humanity. So a people that brings a conscience, right, into the world and says, as you said, you put your finger right on it. Is there evil in the world? Well, evil is what God says is evil, and good is what God says is good. Now, the human has a good insight into what good and evil are. But if you're only going to trust human insight, then you quickly devolve into moral relativism. You have your truth, I have my truth. He has what he thinks is good. He has what he thinks is good. And chaos ensues. So one thing that people did not like is that Jews brought a code, which is to say the Torah, which says what good and evil are. That's one thing they don't like. Another is that the Jewish people, and this is one of the greatest proofs that God exists, that the Torah is true, the Jewish people, this tiny people, apparently hated by so many others, and here we still are. How many ancient peoples are still around? The Amorites, the Phoenicians, the Agagites.
Last I heard, Jewish people make up 0.2% of the world population, not even 1%.
Oh, much less than 1%. Yeah, absolutely. Right. But totally overrepresented among the people who are giving contributions to the world. Right? When
Yeah.
people say, yeah, I want to boycott Israel. Okay, so don't use your iPhone because there's technology in there.
Well, all right. I'm going to interrupt here for a second. You're talking, go back to the fact that you were, given the Torah. One of the reasons I think that Jewish people have been so tormented is because I think that arguably the Jewish faith is one of the most pragmatic, for lack of a better term, pragmatic religions on the planet. It's really there. First of all, there's no human intermediary. You're talking about, you're being dealing directly with God. There's no, the Christians have their Jesus, the Buddhists have Buddha, it's like there's, and so the Jews, they're directly dealing with God, and the pragmatism of that leads themselves to a positive society. And here's my theory here, and this is the reason I think gay men have such a hard time too. I think a lot of it's just plain envy. Like Jewish people, like you said, historically are amazingly productive, and as are gay men, and also gay men have a really good time. They do, and I think one of the reasons people hate both, or have hated both for millennia, is envy. It's just plain envy, or what?
Anybody who's successful and can keep going and live their own life, kind of take the road less traveled, can attract attention that is negative. That's for sure. But I was gonna say, and we're still here, right? The fact that we're still here testifies to the truth of Torah, the longevity of the Jewish people, and attracts, it can attract hatred and jealousy. We're so grateful that we live in a country that has so many people who really believe in the Bible. And I'm talking about Christians who are the great friends of Israel, and who take seriously Genesis 12:3, right, where God says, I will bless those who bless you, the descendants of Abraham, and curse the one who curses you. And people take that seriously, and you could see it happen. I mean, people, who adhere to these rules, and there are laws in the Torah that obligate all people, right? Those are known as the Noahide commandments. The first of that is to know about God. You need to know about God and not deny that there is a God. And there's some basic rules that we should all be able to follow, like don't murder, don't rape, don't steal. We should be able to agree on that. But then there's a very interesting commandment, which is the very first commandment that God gave into the world. And do you know what that is? When I ask people this, they often they're puzzled. What is the first commandment? It was given at the very beginning. Be fruitful and multiply. Right? That is a commandment. And it's a very interesting commandment because normally it's taken to mean have kids, have another generation. The world was made to be populated. Certainly people who are raising families are engaged in the business of the world, right? They are doing what we were put in this world to do. To build, to transmit values to the next generation, etc. Everyone who has a family knows that the most important thing is your family. If God forbid you're in an accident and your life is rushing before your eyes, you're not thinking about the possessions you accumulated, right? You're thinking about the relationships you've had with your loved ones, starting with your family. But if be fruitful and multiply only meant have kids, it would have sufficed to say multiply. Right, so here's some Torah study. What does be fruitful mean? Bear fruit, right? Now that's fascinating because not everyone is blessed to have children. There's many reasons why a person, is not blessed to have children.
I don't have any. Yeah.
There you go. But you can bear fruit, and you are bearing fruit, Jim, every night, right? You are making a contribution to the world that only you can make. You looked around and you said, there is no Jim Peters at night. There is no one telling the stories that I tell, interviewing the guests that I interview. And if I don't do it, no one will, right? So that's talking about your mission in this world. Bearing fruit is continuously asking yourself, what is the problem that won't get fixed unless I fix it? What is the contribution that won't be made unless I contribute it? Who is the person that won't be taken care of unless I take care of them? And too many people just kind of sleepwalk through life, going from one job to the next job, one idea to the next idea, one cause du jour to the next cause du jour. But if you continuously ask yourself, why was I sent into this world? Why did God decide that this world could no longer exist without me in it? And so I was born. I was sent here. And if you keep asking, why was I sent here? Answers will come. The answer will come, but only to people who keep asking the question. And that's what we learn from be fruitful and multiply.
Those are incredibly um, profound words. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Uh, uh, it's funny. I will just tell you. I had on last night. I had on a former Marine who's now trauma dealing with trauma. He's dealing with people of PTSD, not necessarily
Mhm.
from combat, just regular trauma. And it's guys like you and him are the reason I do this, man. I really appreciate it. It's like you're educating the public, and that's a good thing. So,
Thank God. Thank God.
and also you got me here now. I wasn't thinking, so now I don't know what to say next. You got
Shall I
me.
tell you a story? Shall I
Yeah,
tell you a
please,
story?
please
I will
do.
entertain you with a story from the
Yeah.
real world. We're very proud, right? We're bringing a movie that's an action thriller, a taut action thriller, to theaters on July 18th. And it's a movie that is consistent with the values that we've been talking about here.
I'm going to stop you for a second. I worked in I was in the music business for most of my adult life, which is the reason I lived in Los Angeles, as I was telling you well, before we started here. Uh, it's pretty damn hard to get a movie produced, isn't it? How long did it take you? Years?
Years.
Yeah,
Every movie takes years, and this one took a bunch of years.
yeah.
Yeah, in fact, we decided that this movie, it's our third film together. My wife and I write together, I direct. This is our third film. And when we were looking for the subject, we decided it would be a thriller. We studied the thriller genre, watched a thriller a day in our living room for 2 years. And we were looking for the subject. And then it was 2019 when there was a shooting in a synagogue in Poway, California. A woman, Laura Gilbert Kay, was killed. The rabbi courageously stood in front of the killer with his rifle, said, "Stop," had his fingers shot off. And then the gun jammed, miraculously saving others from being killed, and people chased him out. And then the rabbi became a public figure calling on the public to make something meaningful come out of this tragedy, to do mitzvahs, to do good deeds. Either Jews fulfilling Jewish commandments or non-Jews fulfilling the commandments we've talked about, making something good happen in the name of this woman, Lori. We're very proud of this movie. And like I said, it squares with these kinds of values. Hollywood movies don't. There is a woke agenda behind so many of the movies that come out that is just not consistent with who America is. This finger wagging soapbox
But Sal,
coming out of Hollywood.
you're actually living in the right in the heart of it there. So I mean, you're probably dealing with pushback on a daily basis, aren't you? I mean, because
I'm reporting to you from Sodom and Gomorrah. It's
right.
true.
You are the minority in this community. So and more in more ways than one, really.
Well, this is the story I want to tell you. So
Yeah.
we shot the movie. Like I said, it's great. It's a good movie, taut thriller, big stars. And we finished cutting picture, and we were working on sound and music. And my producing partner showed it to a bigwig in Hollywood, an agent at a major agency who sells independent movies to distributors, basically an expert in what America is looking for in movies.
Mm-hmm.
So he watches our movie, and he says, "Great movie. You guys are going to make a lot of money in streaming." I said, "Thanks, but we see this as a theatrical release." He says, "How many Jews are there really? New York, LA, Florida."
Well, no, he did.
I said, "Well, that's an important part of our audience, but a much bigger part of our audience is Christian and conservative."
But
he says to me, "What are you talking about? Those people hate Jews." Now, when I got my jaw off the floor, that this so-called expert in what America is looking for in movies had just slandered half of America, and I realized this guy never meets the people he flies over between New York and LA. He has no clue who America is, what America's looking for.
On top of that, he's wrong.
And he's wrong. And of course he's wrong. And I know he's wrong because my wife and I run this Jewish wisdom platform, Accidental Talmudist. We have 1 million followers on Facebook, 300,000 on other platforms. I teach Torah every day. And half, and maybe more than half of our audience is not Jewish. And they tend to be Christian and conservative. And they take the Bible seriously, and they appreciate a man who takes his faith seriously. We've tested it. They love Rabbi Mo, the main character of the movie. For lack of a better phrase, the God and Guns crowd, very much Second Amendment values are part of the movie as well. They really appreciate, a man of faith, even if it's a different faith than theirs, but who takes God, who takes scripture, who takes protecting his community seriously. They love Neil McDonough, who's done so many movies and who's a man of honor. He's a Christian that wouldn't kiss a woman who's not his wife. And so he's played a lot of bad guys, but he's become a real hero in that community. And he's a big part in our movie. So I knew that there's an audience for this movie, and it's already happening. I mean, we're getting so much buzz. It's unbelievable how much early buzz there is. But the fact that this guy, the expert, could be that far off of who America is tells you so much about why Hollywood produces flop after flop, right? They tell themselves that the reason people don't show up to movie theaters is because COVID killed movie going, and
right.
They have home theaters, blah, blah, blah. It's the same crowd. It's the same story that in the 60s, when movies had become stale, they blamed TV that people stopped going to movie theaters. Right. There was a new wave of filmmakers in the 70s that really excited the audience, new stories, new questions, new approaches, and the people came, back to the theaters. We're already having a big year because there are stories, there are movies out there that don't offend half of America and their values, right? They respect America. And these old labels of who we are, that, well, if you're a Republican, you believe this. If you're a Democrat, you believe this. Never the twain shall meet. That's not who we are. We all have answers to different issues. I happen to be a conservative on most issues, but I can break bread with a liberal. I can break bread with a Democrat. I don't get offended because he disagrees with me. And I think much of America is like that, and so the labels that the mainstream media wants to put on us and tell us that we should be furious and terrified of people who disagree with us, it's nonsense. We're past that.
Absolutely.
We're finally, I think, starting to realize what Reverend King said, right? We're going to judge people by the content of their character.
Right.
Not the color of the skin or the slogan on the T-shirt.
Well, I live here in Northeast Minneapolis. Here is I'm in one of the three most liberal congressional districts in the United States, and if I am too also conservative, and if I didn't talk to liberals, I wouldn't have any friends because I'm absolutely surrounded by them. It's like they're everywhere. I'm a little island. I want to share a little story about, and this is not so much about people being against each other, or just the competence of businessmen in the arts. And the story I like to tell on this is J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter. And I don't know if you know this. She submitted that book to the 42 major publishers on Earth, and all 42 of them turned it down, even though almost universally the readers said they liked it. Everyone said this will never sell. And so finally Scholastica in the United States, which had never published a fiction book before, they said, well, we're going to take a flyer, And this book that every one of these departments in 42 major publishers rejected, and it has sold, the first book, the Harry Potter series, is sold more books than any other book in history other than the Bible. And so the incompetency here is I mean, people make mistakes. I understand that, but you just turned down. It's like you turned down the Bible. I mean, what are you thinking? There's no one in your company, in 42 companies, that couldn't see the wisdom of putting this out. I mean, I just find this astonishing. And Hollywood's in the same place right now.
Yeah.
Do you read John Nolte?
Get it.
John Nolte, the columnist.
I do. I know John Nolte.
Oh,
yes.
That the columnist for Breitbart. I mean, he's constantly harping about this, about the fact that if people say, there's all sorts of excuses why people aren't going to the movies, and yet Top Gun Maverick absolutely fills the theaters. Well,
exactly.
Some people are going to something.
Yeah.
If it was endemic, nobody would be going to anything. So, I mean, his point is, no, the movies just suck. So
Exactly.
right.
Retreads, reboots, killing franchises.
Yeah. And
They
I don't
killed
believe
Snow
it.
White, for God's sake.
I
How bad of a movie do you have to make
right.
Snow White a flop?
No, I know. And I'm watching TV the other night, and there's a commercial for Superman. And I'm thinking, isn't this the third reboot in like 40 years? Why are they? Do we need another Superman movie? I mean, Christ Almighty! And I think they're starting from the beginning. This is not a sequel. It's like it's another. It's the classic Superman story. And I'm thinking, no, I've seen this twice already. I don't know if I need to see this again. I don't know. Maybe whatever. I'm not your average person. I'm not your average moviegoer, but
well, if people want to see something fresh that they haven't seen before, that's an edge of your seat thriller, and that they're going to be happy they went to the theater, and they're going to have a lot to talk about afterward, you got to support movies like that with your feet. July 18th, Guns N' Moses.
Sal, if you want to do this, I'd like to have your entire cast on this show, maybe after a week or two after it opens, because I know you guys are going to be really busy. And then maybe you need a little bump too. I don't know. Not that a million people are watching this, but if you guys want to come on, I'd love to have you.
Okay. I'll definitely run it by my team. Absolutely. I like that idea.
In late July, maybe. So, that'd be fantastic. All right. Tell me another joke.
Sure. I'll tell you my favorite joke.
You have a favorite joke.
I have a favorite joke.
All right.
I mean, it depends on the day, but this is usually my favorite joke. There's an interfaith conference, and there's a panel, and you got a priest and an imam and a rabbi. They're all asked, what do you hope people will say about you at your funeral? So the imam says, at my funeral, I hope they'll say I put the needs of my congregation before my own. The priest says, at my funeral, I hope they'll say I extended my ministry beyond the walls of my church. And the rabbi says, at my funeral, I hope they'll say, look, he's moving.
All right, that's a really good joke. That's a really good joke. Oh my God! All right, that's fantastic. Yeah. You got. So you grew up in Chile, right?
I was born in Chile. I lived there till I was 5. I mentioned that my grandmother and my mom survived the Holocaust. My grandfather didn't. That was in Hungary. And then they followed a relative after the war to South America. But it was not till 1956. So first they had the Nazis, and then they had the Soviet Union.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And Soviet Union was better than the Nazis.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
Right. Well,
so much better.
Just as an aside, my mother ended up hiding in Yugoslavia in a false closet for 3 months so that she wouldn't get raped by the German soldiers. So I have, and she's going to be 101 next month.
God bless her. That's fantastic.
She's still walking around. She's still, it's like, that giving people, taking names and stuff.
Yeah, you have good genes. That's something to celebrate right there.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm abusing
them. So they got to Chile, and Chile was a great haven, for the Hungarian Jews that made it there. My father's family, also Jewish, but had come to Chile like 1905 from Ukraine, pre-Soviet Union Russia. In 1970, Chile elected a communist president, and the Hungarians in our family said, "We've seen this movie before. We're not sticking around."
Right.
And that's when we got the heck out of Chile, and thankfully ended up in the United States. And I grew up in the New York area. Maybe people can hear it in my voice. And so I've been here ever since.
So what borough? Where did you grow up from?
Not in New York City. We were actually in the Bronx for a few years, and then I grew up in Rockland County, if anyone is familiar with it. New City, New York. It's about an hour north of the city, New York City. And I didn't know that I was going to be a filmmaker. That was not on my radar. But we were an immigrant, a real great immigrant story. My parents looked around and said, what's the thing to be in America? Go to Harvard and be a doctor. That's the dream. So I was 5 years old, and they said, you're going to go to Harvard and be a doctor.
Did you buy it?
Okay. Because I was 5.
Did you go to Harvard and try to be a doctor?
Yes, I went to Harvard. That used to be something that I would not talk about. It might sound snotty or something, but now that it's more of a badge of shame, I will freely admit it.
Yeah, well, hold on. I have to ask you though. I mean, I'm also a first generation American, and there's pros and cons of this. Well, one of the pros is that you're talking about you didn't expect to be a filmmaker. One of the pros is that in some ways you there's no precedent in your family for like doing anything, so you can kind of do whatever you want. Did that ever occur to you at some point, or that well, I want to do this, so I'm going to do it? There's nothing
I mean,
stopping you.
later, but I'll tell you, part of this, that sort of long history of the Jews encountering Jew hatred is something that we transmit to our children, that you have to be able to create a life in a new place. If need be, you might have to leave this country and start over somewhere else. And what can you take with you? It's good to have some portable wealth. I mean, to have a little bit of money to get started, very important. It's not that we were rich, we certainly weren't, but you had to have a little bit of scratch to get going. And education. No one can ever take your education away from you. So that's why, my parents had that very strong desire to send me to a place where, okay, a Harvard degree is going to help you. Of course,
Right.
it helped me. And it was a great education. And I was on the rowing team, of all things.
Did you graduate from Harvard? Did you actually?
I graduated from Harvard, and I realized I wasn't going to be a doctor. I couldn't stand the pre-med classes. I was incompetent at biology and organic chemistry, when it's so competitive that, it's just to get the highest grade so you can get into medical school. And so, when I told my parents I'm not going to medical school, they said, well, then obviously you're going to law school. And I said, well,
that's the other choice.
I'll go to law. And my father said, because if you have a law degree, you'll always have that to fall back on. You don't have to be a lawyer. And I heard that.
Yeah.
I said, okay. So I'll just get that law degree. And he didn't think that I would finish law school and then not be a lawyer. But it was a wonderful experience for me. I went to law school at NYU. I was in the city. I lived in the Village, great artistic center of the world. And because I'd been a rower in college, I was so busy that I really need to start thinking, like, who am I? What am I? Like I said earlier, what's my mission?
Does NYU have a rowing team?
No.
Okay. What are they rowing in the?
That was already law school.
And
and in law school, whatever. I was like a law student by day, poet warrior by night. Just filling journals, trying to figure out. I feel like this creative drive. How am I going to express it? I thought I would write novels. But then a friend of mine went to film school, and I'm like, what's that? He's like, what do you mean, what's that? You got to learn how to make films. And I just never heard of it, and then I started looking into it. I love movies. I mean, I just always loved movies. It just didn't, it never occurred to me that you could become a film director.
This around the 1980s?
Yeah, I got to NYU in 1987. I graduated law school in 1990. And then I worked like a year and a half at a corporate law firm, but it clearly wasn't for me. And I applied to UCLA Film School and the MFA directing program. And I had no business getting in. I had no background, but I wanted it so badly. I campaigned for it. I researched who were the professors that would be interviewing me. I learned what their backgrounds were, and when I went in to be interviewed by them, I talked to them about them. And here's a great piece of advice for anybody who's is looking for a job, going to go through a job interview. Get the interviewer talking about himself or herself.
Right.
No one remembers what people talk about in an interview, but if you get them talking about themselves, they'll remember it was a very intelligent conversation.
Because most people love themselves.
Most people love themselves. Exactly right. And then when I arrived at UCLA Film School.
So just a second. When you went to for those interviews, was that the first time you'd ever been to LA?
The first time I came to LA was to interview for some law firms. It was kind of a boondoggle trip just to come out to LA. No, I was listening to the Grateful Dead, playing Estimate a Profit while landing in California, singing about California.
What does a New Yorker think of LA when you're an adult and been there for the first
time I arrived? I loved it. It seems so spacious to me and so fun. Closes early, unlike New York. Pizza sucks, but otherwise it's a great place.
Well,
and
there's a
so many creative people, so many
yeah,
people chasing their dreams, whether it's
right.
music or acting or film, writing films, directing films. And I talked my way into UCLA Film School. And as soon as I started making short films, it was like, thank God, really, thank you, God, that I didn't miss this. This is what I was meant to do. And I've just
And when
been
you
at
were,
it ever since.
shall I presume here, when you were in film school, that it was the pre-digital era, so you were actually working on film, right?
Here it is. A splicer.
Yeah, right. That's right.
That's how we used to cut film, right?
Yeah.
Literally
Yeah,
cutting the film.
I know, because I worked in audio, so we were cutting tape, so it's the same thing, and people that, I just as an aside, all these young bands now, they record digitally, and usually now there's a big deal about they'll take their master and run it through a 2-track analog tape recorder because they like the analog sound, and they all pine for this, time 40 years ago when people it was such a pain in the ass. You don't want to deal with this. It's like, you don't. We had to recalibrate these machines every 3 hours, 2-inch tape, 24-track. It was really a really pain in the ass. It was like, oh yeah. You pine for that? Sure. You go ahead.
Yeah, and every time you audition and edit in a movie and you want to slide it back or forth, one frame.
Yeah.
Now there's tape running through the sprockets and it makes it jump, and you have no idea how it really plays,
Right.
until
and the thing is, you're right. You're making an edit for one frame and you have to change all of this stuff. I mean, it's like, it's like not like today. Boop.
Exactly.
Anyway, I'm sorry I interrupted you. My apologies. So you got into film school. You got in.
Yeah, and then just and I was just determined to become a filmmaker. A lot of people go to film school for therapy, just making films about their anxiety and whatnot. But I just was determined to get in, and it's very hard when you graduate from film school with a degree in directing. So you're qualified to direct a movie or fetch coffee, and the only job they're offering is fetch coffee.
Right.
And I had lots of jobs. I managed a building, a 30-unit building. I read scripts at an agency. I gave consultation on scripts, just anything. And then I met my wife. We started writing together. We wrote a bunch of scripts. And then finally we raised the money and we made our first movie, When Do We Eat?, which was a pretty raucous comedy with a spiritual center. It was Jack Klugman's last movie. And it's become the Jewish It's a Wonderful Life. People watch it every year as Passover approaches. It's a real cult classic. Some other years went by. We made Saving Lincoln, amazing movie about the 16th president and his closest friend, Ward Hill Lamon, who was also his bodyguard, saved his life more than once and would have saved it at the end if Lincoln had not sent him away. Why did Lincoln send Ward Hill Lamon away? See Saving Lincoln. Both those films are available on Prime.
There's this famous story, apocryphal, I don't know if it's true or not, about the fact that a couple nights before Ford Theater, Lincoln dreamed about the fact that he saw his body lying in state in the White House. And did he was that Ward that he told that story to? Do you know?
I'm not sure if he told Lamon that story. I am familiar with that story. The way that our film is structured is that Lamon is called to account by the friends from Illinois. Why did you not protect Mr. Lincoln? Why did you not save Lincoln? It's called Saving Lincoln. What was interesting is we were up against Spielberg, right? Spielberg made a Lincoln movie and we made a Lincoln movie. They came out at the same time. We were on it for a lot longer than he was, but it ended up working out that way. And what's so curious is that when Spielberg, who really could have made and should have made the defining Lincoln movie, The Generation, he had every opportunity. But the movie that they made is the Civil War is over and Lincoln is twisting arms in Congress to get an amendment passed outlawing slavery. Like that was not that big a surprise that they got that law passed. Our movie is Abraham Lincoln leads the nation through the Civil War and its darkest hours and his own darkest hours in his family, wrestling with his demons as he's ordering so many boys to go die in that war while people are trying to kill him. There were numerous assassination attempts.
Yeah, right.
And his closest friend is trying to not only keep him alive, but, like working. Lincoln suffered from terrible depression, and Lamon sang, bawdy songs, played banjo, and Lincoln loved him because he made Lincoln laugh. And that's what Saving Lincoln is all about. And because no one would help us make that movie in a world where Spielberg was making a Lincoln movie, we found an original way to make a movie. We shot it like a sci-fi movie on a soundstage with a green screen, and all the backgrounds are made from actual photographs from the 1860s in a process that we invented and that I called Cinecollage.
Yeah, I've heard about. I heard about the process. I gotta admit, I hadn't heard about your movie, but I've heard about the process. Yeah. This is an aside, since I've never seen your movie. Was Mary Todd crazy?
She was under a lot of stress, and Mary was played in our movie by Penelope Ann Miller, who plays Nancy Reagan in the recent Reagan movie as well.
Yeah,
so she's
right.
A couple first ladies. And by the way, John Wilkes Booth in my movie was played by Jonathan Rumi, that I discovered, who plays Jesus in The Chosen. But the pressure that she was under, I mean, the Lincolns had a child die.
Yeah.
Willie, during the Civil War. And you think that Trump encounters Trump derangement syndrome, right? So many people hate Trump with the heat of 1,000 suns.
Right.
It's just as bad for Lincoln.
Oh, I know that.
There were people who loved Lincoln, and there were more people who hated Lincoln. I mean, so much so that half the country seceded.
Right.
Before,
Yeah, it's amazing he won re-election, really.
Exactly. Even on his own side.
One more question, because I'm a famous conspiracy theorist. Did John Wilkes Booth die in the barn or not?
Yes, I would say he died in the barn.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know what.
But I'd be curious. I like conspiracy theories. I just haven't heard one where he did.
Oh,
I'm sure
you've heard the theories about the fact he didn't. I assume you've heard them, right?
I mean, I've heard some, but not with detail.
There's some evidence that he didn't, but I don't know. I really don't know either way. I put betting on.
What people really need to appreciate is who John Wilkes Booth was in American public life.
That's right.
It's like Leonardo DiCaprio killed the president.
Exactly. That's exactly right. He was the single most famous actor in America. That's right.
Yeah.
I know. It's like, it's pretty. The whole thing's pretty amazing. And you're right. Because the sheen of history is kind of lost on the. I mean, obviously it was momentous, but still, I don't know if people realized at the time how momentous it was. You're right. It's basically like Leonardo DiCaprio shot Donald Trump. That's basically what it'd be like.
Imagine. Right. Crazy like that.
I know. Sal, I can't thank you enough for talking to us. Really, I've enjoyed this immensely, and I'm really serious. We'll talk in a few days here. The next month, let's get your cast and crew on. You get some webcam somewhere where everybody can stand up and we'll all have a good time.
I'd love to come back. I've really enjoyed our conversation. Went to some unexpected places, some profound places, and I think this is what live conversation with an audience is all about.
Thank you. I do too. So I'm glad you like it. I'm really glad you came. I really appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. Okay. You take care.
All the best. Take care.
Thanks. All right, now joining us from his home, I got guests on this show, Jonathan.
Yeah.
You're
a lucky man.
I'm getting to go. Yeah, I am.
Your dance card's full. You're a lucky man. Go for it.
Oh, it is. You're absolutely right.
You even have the luxury of me coming in to fill in garbage time after your main guest.
No,
it's the garbage time. Now the garbage time relief pitcher here to entertain you. Yes,
I would call you the second guest, but no.
Okay.
Oh man, you're in good spirits tonight.
Yeah, read my book if you're having trouble falling asleep. That's right. Read either one of them. Either one works great. Well, thank you, Dr. Lockwood. I just went off the la la land just like that.
And are you in your pajamas? Is that what you're going to
do? I'm wearing my We the People patriotic shirt. Yeah,
okay. So I'm talking to Sal Litvak there, and he's in LA, so it's like 7 p.m. there, but it's 10 p.m. where you are.
Yep.
Right. So it's late. It's past your bedtime, man.
It's getting there. Yes, I'm still coherent, just barely. That's all right. Yeah, I had my earlier dose of coffee. It's not quite worn off yet, when I reach my limit, I just toddle off to La La Land, shut down the computer, and away I
I
go.
appreciate you coming on so late. I also appreciate you coming on live because I really wanted to talk to you about the real up to the minute stuff here. So the last I heard, it seems like nothing's happened during the day today, but this morning, Mr. Trump was bitching about the fact that the ceasefire was basically being violated by both the parties. Is that basically what you
he was dropping the F-bomb.
Yeah, right. He was
dropping F-bombs of his own.
Right.
And you can't really blame him. I mean, given the fact that he's put his reputation, his credibility on the line in going ahead and doing what no other president in the past few decades has been willing to do, actively take out Iran's nuclear capability using military force and using those bunker busters, which is really just one step short of nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
And, I've looked at all the reports that I can get hold of, and the assessments, and of course you get these conflicting reports, which say, so yes, the main thrust of the reports is yes, we destroyed their nuclear capability or set it back at the minimum a few months, and which of course buys time for the United States and Israel to follow up. They are not going to just they're not going to just stop looking. The intelligence community and all of our assets that we can muster are going to be keeping a very careful eye on Iran and what's left of its capability. As in the Israelis, I would be shocked if we were not sharing intelligence to the maximum extent possible with the Israelis, with each other, to make sure that, because the existential nature of this threat is such that they cannot afford to be wrong.
Right. That's right.
They can't afford.
Jonathan,
yeah.
Is the administration just playing word games here when they say they don't want regime change? I think what they actually mean is they don't want us to do regime change. They want somebody else to do regime change, but they would like to see the Iranian Ayatollah leadership disappear. Right. But they don't want to be the ones stepping in there and forcing the issue. They would prefer that the Iranian people, take care of business themselves and overthrow the Ayatollahs and establish a more congenial, peace-loving regime that is more open to peaceful interaction with the West, and to give up this obsession with destroying the Jewish nation that has dominated the Ayatollahs' thinking ever since they came to power. Well, that seems to be the only thing they're really about.
Yeah.
I don't know. You probably didn't hear the first part of the conversation I had was Sal Litvak here, but we were talking about that too, about the fact that the Palestinians, they had 14 years where nobody bothered them, and for all practical purposes, still the only thing they really did was try to kill more Jews. That seems to be what they're about.
That's all you see on their resumes.
Right. That's right. Exactly. So one of your cohorts this afternoon on Fox News, he floated this. He said, well, a likely or preferred scenario would be that there would be a military coup in Iran, and the military would take over for a period of time and then turn it over to a representative democracy of the people there. Now, military coups usually don't do that, but Iran's a relatively educated country. So, I mean, what do you think of that scenario? Do you think that's possible? Or?
Fortunately, Iran has a relatively educated populace, which fulfills one of the requirements for establishing a lasting representative democracy. Like we must remember that the United States, if you're thinking of trying to establish a democracy that similar to that of the United States, you must remember the United States is not a democracy.
Right. That's right.
It is a constitutional republic.
Correct.
It is a unique creation, and the thing is that many of the neoconservatives who have been trying to, foster the development of democracy in foreign governments, they were making a terrible mistake, because if you try to install pure democracies, you eventually get the tyranny of the majority, as what the founding fathers feared when they set out to construct our constitutional
I'm
republic.
glad you pointed that out. Thank you very much, because I've been harping on that for quite a while. Thanks for
And it's not something that we should not be striving to foster democracy in other parts of the world, and it's way too labor intensive, shall we say, to establish constitutional republics,
right,
and all those, because that takes time and it takes very close supervision, and it's a paradox. The more you supervise, the less likely you are to get a freedom-loving constitutional republic.
right.
So you have this problem. The best we can achieve, given the fact that we live in a morally fallen, imperfect world, the best that the United States can do is to create an international environment where as many nations as possible are free to pursue economic development and prosperity, and to act as what I call being a geopolitical balancer. Very similar to the way that England served as a geopolitical balancer vis-a-vis the continent of Europe during the 18th and 19th centuries. Their idea was to use their power to prevent any one hostile power or nation from gaining control of the continent of Europe.
Hold it, Jonathan. This is, that's a positive example of that concept, but I think the Obama administration tried to do the same thing in the Middle East with Iran and Israel, and that is they wanted to essentially balance them out. And their solution of that is, let's prop Iran up. But the problem with that is Iran is intrinsically evil. What the hell are you thinking?
Let's support Satan against the Catholic Church.
That's right. I know.
Take the Catholic Church in from dominating to, let's support Satan.
Right. It's a stupid thing.
What the hell?
I know. How could you come to that conclusion?
after smoking a few of these, and I don't even smoke.
You're right. You'd have to. It's the stupidest thing ever. Even though your example with Europe and England is actually
it's a good analogy for the United States of follow in the 21st century, because we're the only power that really has global power projection capability.
Right.
Yet no other nation has that because of the dominance of the U.S. Navy. The U.S. Navy still dominates the world's oceans. That is a key to our security. And I would also argue that another key to our future security will be when we're talking about the Golden Dome structure. I told you my analysis and my experience in war games and military history and strategy tells me that the potential flaw in the Golden Dome is that it does not handle intercontinental ballistic missiles in the right way. They're proposing to use satellites. And my war game experience shows that when you have satellites versus satellites in low Earth orbit, which is what you'll be proposing, that creates an unstable hair trigger situation in low Earth orbit. The Mexican standoff in low Earth orbit.
Yeah.
When the side that fires first in that situation has a decisive advantage. People don't realize this because they didn't see what I saw in the war game. It just had that lesson for us. So what's interesting, the solution to that, because I couldn't see the solution emerging at the time, when Elon Musk invented reusable spacecraft. That created the potential to upgrade the Space Force with a space fleet, with starships, and give it a manned space fleet that can operate in low Earth orbit, armed with lasers. Those lasers, which would have a crew composed of human crew, Space Force Guardians, and you could also have AI robots, at least two of them, to help ensure 24/7 operation.
Right.
Very useful combination. And nobody's proposing that. You're talking to the only person who's proposing this sort of thing.
Well,
go ahead.
I was going to say, there are people who ascertain the Mexican standoff situation like you have, but I have not heard anyone talk about, well, that's not true. I've heard people talking about the space fleet, but not in the context of what you're talking about.
Right. Because when you have a space fleet, a space fleet doesn't just perform one function. A Space Force fleet could carry out not only being the central pillar of a Golden Dome, making it a very effective defense and much more cost effective. But it could also perform mundane missions like cleaning up space junk. One of they just help clean out the low Earth orbit, all that excess space junk. It could also it's a bonus mission, really, almost too easy a lift. It could monitor and evaluate climate change, just in case you wanted a separate set of eyes instead of relying on flawed computer models to talk about climate change or to see if there's any real phenomenon there to it. You also have the potential for also operating a lunar base, for supporting the development of space commerce, exploiting asteroids that have other types of rare earth minerals or other materials that Earth could use. There are multiple missions, and most important of all, is a Space Force fleet could act to block, deflect, or destroy comets, meteors, or asteroids that would actually be confirmed as threatening to hit Earth. Gives you more options.
Or the coming extraterrestrial invasion.
No. Here, that's what's fascinating about that is that let's just take that at face value for a second.
Okay, all right.
Okay. There is a YouTube personality, a futurist and science fiction author, John Michael Godier, Godier. He has a number of series of wonderful YouTube videos that talk about this amazing universe in which we live. And 3 of his YouTube videos are well worth watching. One of them is 10 reasons why aliens might want to invade Earth. The second one is 10 reasons why aliens might not want to invade Earth. And he goes through these very logically in this. And the third one, and most fascinating of all, can alien civilizations detect us? And he goes through the logic because any alien civilization that would have to know which direction to look, and they would have to have some serious collection equipment in order to be able to detect the existence of our civilization, especially when you consider the fact that we've only been sending out radio signals for the past, 125 years?
Yeah.
So that means is the radius of our radio signals that can be detected, it can only be detected out to 125 light years from Earth.
I understand.
So that means any alien civilization that's farther away than 125 light years would not have a clue that we are here.
But there's so many, Jonathan, you're talking about my wheelhouse now. There's so many planets within 125 light years that
right.
I know.
So let's step through this logically. We're taking Star Trek and we're walking it back to the current century here.
Okay.
So what would we be worried about? We would be worried about the Space Force intelligence as it develops. Space Force's intelligence mission would be to, using our databases and linking up with SETI and other places, we would be looking at all star systems within 125 light year radius.
Right.
And it expands every year outward. You're looking at a sphere that's 125 now and gradually expanding. And
right.
you're looking for star systems that have the potential to support life. You would be looking for, what Star Trek calls Class M planets.
Yeah.
But you look for those planets, and within that entire sphere, you also, once you've identified candidate systems that could support advanced life, then you're also monitoring all those systems for signs of any kind of activity that would indicate intelligent life, such as the production of unusual signals. It doesn't have to be radio. It could be something else interesting, but that would be a subsidiary mission of Space Force intelligence. It would not be the primary mission, because that would not until you get some sort of indication that, hey, there's life out there. And if there's life out there, there could be intelligent life out there. And once you have that, then you have that mission that builds on itself. Of course, the Space Force is, for the foreseeable future, is going to have to confine itself. Those crews will have to confine themselves to low Earth orbit and the moon. And they will not be going out to Mars, because they might support it, or actually, in a worst case, support a rescue mission to Mars if that were the case. But because of the limitations of the human body, we've seen these reports of how astronauts have to spend a lot of time recovering from the medically recovering when they get back to Earth because of the effects of low Earth, no gravity.
Yeah.
And potential damage to their kidneys.
It's almost like coming up from the ocean and avoiding the bed.
Yes.
Almost.
Yeah. It's even worse in some respects.
Yeah.
Because you've got to cope with also radiation and zero gravity.
Right.
And what I've noticed in my readings is that the potential effects on those astronaut crews that are operating as part of the space fleet, it would essentially compel that Space Force guardians or crews operate for a normal 3 months in space, 6 month tour max, 6 month maximum.
Right.
Then come back, and you have to have enough personnel to rotate through, and is also why it will be necessary for a space fleet to have AI robots as part of the crew.
Right. That's right. Now, and also the other thing is when you're talking about a space fleet or a starship, what you're really talking about kind of is a space station that can maneuver. Because this thing's going to be in permanent orbit, but the International Space Station really, other than the fact it's in a free falling orbit, it can't really move.
Correct.
But these would be vehicles.
These would be modified Elon Musk starships that would be refueled, that could maneuver because they would have the fuel to do it.
Right.
And also, as the technology improves, and remember now they're also working on nuclear thermal propulsion.
Right.
As you would upgrade the starships with that so they could stay up longer, not have to worry about refueling so much. And you have them as the propulsion improves, and eventually once you achieve nuclear fusion power, now fusion power puts the entire solar system within your reach.
Yeah, realistically, from what I can gather, we will probably have commercial fusion power around 2050. Now, but they've been saying this for like 50 years.
They're saying it's always about 20 years.
Right. They keep moving it out. But it looks right now, it does actually, I mean, they had the first reaction where they actually generated more power that they put in to start it. That was a big deal. That just happened like a year ago.
That says it is possible.
Right. That's right.
So now it's a matter of refining the process and conducting enough experiments, and those experiments cost money. A lot of money, and you have to invest enough of that to eventually you get to that magic sweet spot where you've got the combination that allows you to build a commercial fusion engine.
And let's just for the viewers here, what the fusion? Okay, your standard nuclear reactor runs off nuclear fission, which is basically you split atoms up to create energy. Yeah. The fusion is the opposite thing. You take atoms and you force them together to make molecules, and that produces energy. It's way more complicated than the standard fission.
The easy way to remember it is nuclear fission reactors are easy to start up and very hard to shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Nuclear fusion reactors are very hard to get started, but easy to shut down.
Yeah.
And a fusion reactor cannot overload.
Right, that's right. But on the other hand, like you said too, they just crossed the threshold where they actually created more energy than it took to start the thing up. And they've been working on that for 50, 60 years, and that just happened about a year ago.
Right, exactly. So now it's a question of repeating the experiments, tweaking those variables so that you get eventually the right mix, and they're using lots of computer power to try to figure out, okay, what's the optimum mix here? And once you got it, then you have something you can really, really work with.
And the reason it's so hard is because you're basically building a tiny little sun and putting it in a room. Yeah. It's the same. Yeah. The same energy.
We know how to do an uncontrolled fusion reaction. It's called a hydrogen bomb.
That's
Boom! Right. Oh, look! It's a miniature version of the sun right here on our planet. Oh, crap! That's
right. Except the thing is, with a controlled reaction, you literally have to put it in a force field to keep it from touching anything. Because if it touches anything, not only does it stop, it will melt the whole building.
Yeah. So yeah,
it's ridiculous what actually is going on.
And you wonder about these people who do this sort of thing, and you say, okay, I hope your life insurance is paid up.
Yeah. Well, Jonathan, you remember when the Trinity test in 1945, there were scientists who thought, and this was an actual legitimate point of view,
Yeah.
that sending off this bomb was going to blow up the entire universe, because they
or
thought,
they thought the atmosphere would catch on fire.
yeah, or right, exactly, or something like that, because they said, well, there's no reason this reaction should stop, you know.
Mhm.
And of course it did, thank God, otherwise we wouldn't be talking right now. But I mean, that was actually not, you know, you can look back at that now and laugh, but that was actually a legitimate point of view at the time. There were people who said, you can't do this, we're going to destroy the planet.
But Jim, there were if you go back even to the beginning of the 20th century, there were serious scientists throughout the community who were saying that heavier than air flight was impossible.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, so you always have you always have people who are going to say, "Oh, it's not possible. It's not possible," until it is.
Jonathan, one of my favorite books I've read in the last 20 years is by Stan Friedman. It's called Science Was Wrong. It's about all the stuff in the last 100 years that scientists said couldn't be done.
And then we went ahead and did it.
Yeah.
Well, amazingly enough, look at all the wonderful things in our lives that have been inspired by the existence of Star Trek. Yeah, your little smartphone, your cell phone, inspired by Star Trek.
Right.
Even those pneumatic doors that you take for granted that open when you come up on them.
Yeah.
Star Trek was the first to show that. It wasn't a real pneumatic electric door. It was two guys sitting behind the doors.
I had a guest on the show, Jonathan, and I don't think it was you, but because this was a philosophical conversation. Not you don't talk about philosophy, but some guy and I can't remember who it was, came on about the fact that said that Gene Roddenberry might have been like connected to something in the universe, because he has predicted so many things that turned out to be true, not just like gadgets and appliances, but even about physics. I mean,
as a matter of fact, his insight is, let's call it gifted insight. Is replicated in one of his best episodes, "The City on the Edge of Forever," with Edith Keeler, where Edith Keeler in that episode is during her speech in her soup kitchen, she's talking to her customers about all the wonderful the days that are worth living for, about how mankind is going to be able to do all these wonderful things, harnessing incredible energies and things like that. And Spock is listening to this, and Captain Kirk, and Spock is saying, "Gifted insight." Yeah. And quite. Yeah. So but Roddenberry was doing arguably the same thing, and Roddenberry his thesis is being proven correct.
I know
the existence of many planets.
Yeah,
and what Star Trekkers would call Class M planets.
Right.
Those that are in the Goldilocks could actually support life.
I know. It's only 25 years ago we didn't know of any planets outside the solar system. Now we find about a dozen a day. I mean, it's gone up to several. In 25 years, we found several thousand planets. It's mind-boggling.
And our estimate of the size of the observable universe has now gone to now astronomers estimate there are over 1 trillion galaxies.
Galaxies, and each galaxy
has about 100 billion stars.
That's right. I know. So it's just mind-boggling.
And so you look at the incredible size of this, and that's the universe we are able to see.
That's right.
We don't know the unknown universe that lies beyond those trillion yet.
Right.
Well,
not God. Then you talk about all this dimensional stuff, and my God, I mean, your brain will explode. Not yours, John. It's kind of small.
I'll just get a headache. It's like when people when people talk about running a marathon, and I said, when I think about running a marathon, I just go lie down until the feeling goes away.
That's right. I know. Like, you go do that. I'm gonna watch Rockford Files,
or something stimulating something else. Who knows? But yeah, it's just amazing.
You didn't like the Rockford Files? You didn't like that show?
I liked it. I liked the music, the theme song. I had put me to sleep every time. And there are all sorts of wonderful series that you can go back and watch. Matter of fact, tomorrow night, I'm at my church. I am sponsoring a classic Star Trek double feature.
And what are they? What are the two?
The two, it will be the Doomsday Machine, with the planet killer, and the second is the City on the Edge of Forever.
Yeah.
And the now these are mainly for all the adults in the group of adults in the congregation, and my goal is to then, after they've seen them, I said, now I would like to show these classic Star Trek episodes to your high school and middle school youth in the congregation, because for them it's a brand new experience. It's way before their time.
Right.
But those and a couple other episodes that I will introduce to them later. One is Bread and Circuses, and the other is The Ultimate Computer, which in its way foretells the problems involved with AI.
Yeah.
Very forward-looking. I've introduced those episodes and tease out both scientific as well as potential spiritual lessons that can be derived from these episodes.
Yeah.
So,
good for you. That's pretty cool. It really is.
So, and also, there are other things that, you and I have discussed these offline. Sometime we'll have another. We'll probably have another discussion offline within the near future. But in any case, there are it just is absolutely amazing what is some of these things that I predicted or advocated, such as the Golden Dome, which, if the Golden Dome is perfected with what I am suggesting, then it will form the basis for creating what I called in my book, The Russian View of U.S. Strategy, back in 1993. I advocated the creation of a worldwide strategic defense matrix, WSDM, WISDOM. That is and basically it is a system which is designed to neutralize the nuclear arsenals of Russia, China, North Korea, Iran too, if they ever get around to building one again.
Yeah.
But basically, it would neutralize the world's nuclear arsenals. And the motto that I came up with for WISDOM is, I would, if I could make a T-shirt, say support the worldwide strategic defense matrix, WISDOM, because wisdom does not kill.
All right, that's good. That's pretty good. So actually, let's get back to this Iran thing. So
yes.
Now, and forgive me, I don't think I've talked to you about this since it happened. So these bunker buster bombs, this was the first time they were ever actually used in combat, correct?
Correct.
And the B2s can only hold 2 of them at a time. Do I have that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Right. Now, the thing is, the whole B2 stealth bomber thing is really fascinating because they
have. It's also the reason why the B2 we do not sell B2s.
No, we don't. That's what I was going to bring up. We don't sell them. That's the only
because it's got very classified equipment on it. The technology that we do not want anyone else even knowing about it.
That's right. That's why they won't even let non-Americans even drive them, for that matter.
Right.
Right. So yeah, it's from what I understand, it's the only airplane we've ever had we have not sold to other parties.
Correct.
So, and they've made 19 of them, and they're $2 billion a piece. They lost one, so we have 18. They lost one on a training flight, I think it was.
But the person responsible for losing that aircraft lost his career.
Oh man,
that's $2 billion. Well, your pension's not going to make up for that.
No. But even an F-15 costs like $100 million, So,
but the F-15 Eagle is such a magnificent investment in military technology because the record of the F-15 in air-to-air combat, I read 104 kills. It has never been shot down. The score is 104 to nothing.
And how old is that aircraft now? How long is it?
30 years or more.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's been around a while.
It's been around, and for it to be around that long and be unchallengeable in the skies, is it speaks well of the potential of American technology, not just to maintain our supremacy to the degree that we need to be the world's geopolitical balancer, but it also shows the potential of American technology to neutralize the one thing that makes Russia and China great powers in their own perception, neutralize their nuclear missile arsenals. That is the key. That is the crucial center of gravity, their crucial weakness, one they do not want to talk about. Matter of fact, it's why both President Putin and Premier Xi had said that the Golden Dome is highly destabilizing. They are afraid of the
Of
Golden
course, they
Dome
don't want it. That's right. That's
because
right.
it not because it threatens their existence.
No,
It
because
threatens their power.
it's right.
Their
Exactly.
ability to intimidate. If we neutralize that, and because it is such an unchallengeable, potentially unchallengeable thing, because once you introduce that once the Golden Dome with a space fleet, just say for the sake of argument, once it reaches initial operational capability, that is what President Trump could achieve with this approach by the end of his term. Initial operational capability. In other words, so you've got some starships. And when it reaches full operational capability, which will probably be the end of the term of the next president, hopefully Republican, and that to complete that, then the Golden Dome would be capable of neutralizing nuclear arsenals for any power, and we could have, as part of the Golden Dome, as part of the Space Force, to help us out with this, we could have our European allies who have supply some of the crew as well in the Space Force. It sort of takes a leaf from the old classic Star Trek again.
Right. That's right.
Having allied members on board your spacecraft.
Yeah. And the other thing about this whole operation, and actually the previous operation done by the Israelis too, is that it's astonishing how perfectly this went off. And the example that I want to use specifically, and also this is me, I always figure that, that I don't understand. It takes other countries and other companies too long to get on board. My example is that, okay, so we've had the B-2 bombers 20 years and the stealth technology. I just assume that after 20 years, somebody's figured out how to defeat this from a radar standpoint. But the Iranians aren't those people, because we flew those things over there. They didn't see them at all. I mean, it's like, people understand that they're called stealth because they're invisible to radar. I figured at some point somebody's going to figure out how to see them, but nope. It's not the Iranians. If anyone has, they didn't.
You just. Oh, I don't know if I should say this one.
Oh no, you got it now. Yeah, it's only you and I have 5 people. Come on.
Right. Yeah. Right. Well, that it reminds me of a terrible joke about an advertisement for something called the stealth condom. The stealth condom. And the motto is, they'll never see you coming.
Yeah. Well, you didn't actually have to say it, Jonathan. I got it.
You got it. And so did our other massive audience. Did you hear what they said?
That's right. I know. That's what's going to happen.
Now they won't be able to sleep. It's like an earworm. They won't be able to get it out of their minds.
We could use a viral moment here, so that's fine.
Oh yeah, really. Yeah, but you got to have a sense of humor because when you're looking at having to destroy nuclear reactors just to keep, because the Israelis have all the motivation in the world. Their existence depends on their being able to keep that nuclear power from ever arising, because and no one can really argue with that, except a rabid anti-Semite.
Yeah, that's right, and that's what they are.
Yeah. So I applaud President Trump for having pulled a magnificent head fake on the timing of the strikes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He'd said.
Just say, Jonathan. Here's the deal with that, though. I'm sitting here in my underwear in Minneapolis, and I saw that coming a mile away. How come other people? How come they didn't? I don't. It's like I don't know. I don't understand that. I don't. It's like I knew what was going to happen. That's like obvious to me, But they didn't seem to. He said too.
They simply refused to believe that he would actually do it. There was this. There's a thing going around about calling President Trump Taco Trump. Right. Trump always taco, standing for Trump always chickens out.
Right.
Well, that they were relying too much on their
stupid cleverness.
That's they were imagining themselves to be too smart for their own good.
Right.
So, but now, President Trump has the diplomatic momentum and the military momentum. He has pretty much control of the situation. Now it's going to be a matter of seeing how well his economic policies can be shepherded through and allowed to take effect. And if those policies take effect in the way that some economists are predicting, and resulting in a new era of prosperity for America, then the midterms, contrary to what normally happens, when the party in power loses seats, you could well see a situation in which, contrary to the predictions of some of the media who are trying to say that the Democrats are going to make a comeback in the midterms, I'm going to go out somewhat of a limb and be a contrarian. I'm going to say that the Republicans will expand their majority in the House and expand their majority in the Senate.
That's my prediction also.
And as a bonus effect, one of those 3 remaining liberal justices on the Supreme Court may just take a look at that when they expands and said, "Oh, the heck with this," and just retire.
Yeah. All right. So, what do you think is going to happen with the whole Iranian situation in the next couple weeks? Do you think this ceasefire is going to hold up?
Yeah, well, it depends on what you mean by holding up. You're going to see. It is very difficult for a ceasefire to be enforced, on both sides, reliably, and there are always little skirmishes, little things that were.
Well, you have your
rogue actor that wants to fire a missile.
That's right.
And so it's going to be a very interesting situation, but neither side. But the Israelis are the ones who they bear the responsibility, and rightly so, for keeping a very close eye on Iran. They are not going to be complacent. Neither is the United States. We are not going to take this for granted. We're not going to be busy taking victory laps. We are going to be this administration is very focused on what it wants to accomplish.
Yeah.
They're not going to be dissuaded. They're not going to be discouraged. They're going to be very persistent because they know that President Trump, this is his way to establish his legacy for history. And he is he firmly believes, and I have no reason as a Christian to disbelieve him. He firmly believes that he was spared by God twice from assassination in order so that he could carry out God's larger purpose for his life. And
it's hard not to argue with that.
You really can't. And after all, God spared me from dying of cancer 3 years ago. Yeah. So that was one of those situations. Say, okay. And my wife told me, he says, God has spared you for a larger purpose, and I firmly believe that. And I believe that I have research and analysis and conclusions that I believe would be of great value to the current administration in helping them achieve their goals. And we shall see in the coming months and years, whether these paths will intersect.
Well, we need somebody from the administration to watch this show on a regular basis. That's what we need.
Well, we need some of your good buddies to sort of say, "Hey, have you seen this show?" And
That's right.
funnel it to them. You have him come in and say, "Sit the president down with a Big Mac or two."
That's right.
They watch this show and then get some inspiration.
Listen, talk about Star Trek.
Let's talk about Let's talk about
the Files.
Let's talk about bringing Star Trek into the 21st century. Yeah, exactly.
Jonathan, I'm gonna let you go to sleep now.
Yeah. Oh, you are, and my beloved wife just came walking past just to check out my status and see.
She's not going to walk through past the camera. We're not going to see her.
Oh no. My beloved wife values her privacy.
Yeah. Well, I think I've maybe told you this before. When I got married, my wife said, "I'll marry you under one condition." I've always been in the entertainment business. She said, "You will never drag me up on stage or in front of a television camera ever," and I've never done that. I never have.
Very good. Very good. A wise man. You are still alive.
I'm still alive.
You're still alive. Yes.
That's right. Jonathan, thank you enough. Really. Your wisdom is always, always highly valued here. So I really appreciate it. You take care. All right.
You have a good one.
We'll see.
Okay, bye.
Man, what a show. We had 2 guests on live. It's like couldn't be better. I hope you like this. I'm not going to do any news tonight or anything. We're just going to end this. We've already been yakking here for about 100 minutes. So, I appreciate you watching. I really do. Now, tomorrow night, Larry Newman's coming on. He's a Bigfoot investigator, the bail bondsman, and a staunch conservative. And he will talk about those things. And we'll find out we get some latest Bigfoot reports. There've been a lot of them lately, And then there's the other thing too. There's people in Pennsylvania and Oregon. They're building these housing developments kind of out in the woods. They're pushing. I don't have to tell you this. We're pushing civilization out everywhere, and some of these places they're saying they see Bigfoot in their backyards every day. They don't even bother to report it anymore. They're not even. It's not even a talking point. They just there's Bigfoot in the backyard. There it is. Okay, all right, fine. So I guess Bigfoot's real. I guess I don't know. But anyway, Larry, that's Larry tomorrow, and then L.A. Mazzulli on Thursday. Paranormal researcher extraordinaire for sure. Half a dozen documentaries. I think about 24 books on everything. So we're looking forward to talking to him. Want to thank once again Salvador Litvak. His book is called "Let My People Laugh," and we'll put Jesus, Jim. We'll put a link to that on our blog at jimandknight.com. And Jonathan Lockwood, former U.S. Army colonel and military historian. And as he said, his books are already on our blog, so you'll find him there. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow night with Larry Newman. Good night, Uncle Donnie, wherever you are. And good night to you, wherever you may be. We'll see you tomorrow night, everybody. Take care.